Welcome back to Sincerely V. I am Vanessa Gyan, and I'm still having an amazing conversation with Ellen the Zionist from the age of 8, where she lost her mom to breast cancer, to taking on the streets, to joining a gang. There's so much that went on in her life, and we're still going on the journey. So before we went to break, we touched on your interactions with the older men and just continuing to want acceptance from people. But I also know that you ended up moving. Yes. So let us know a little bit about your move.
Okay. At a point in time, I met a guy who was in England. So he wanted to marry me, but I got pregnant and he sent his family to come and see my dad, but the family members said I was a pauper.
A pauper?
Yeah.
Oh,
I
like
was
you,
from a poor background,
you were
so they didn't allow him to marry me. So after I had my son, 6 months after I had my son, he came back from England to dissolve the engagement.
Wow. He was also Ghanaian?
Yeah, he was also a Ghanaian, yeah. So he dissolved the engagement, and I became depressed, more depressed. I started clubbing and all sort of things. I went back to I was doing the same sort of things.
Right.
Yeah.
And at this time, where was your child?
He was there at home. Okay. I will leave my child with my cousin and go out clubbing. Yeah. So I was going through that, and I remembered along the way, whilst I was on the streets after school, I met a guy who introduced me to fraud. Okay. And then that fraud was a huge one. We had an office.
Wow.
Big time,
whole business
set up here. So I ended up going into that for a while. So I met a whole lot of people. So I had some issue with that business, and I had to run away to Togo for a while, and I came back to Ghana. When I came back, that was when I met the Ghanaian guy from England. Okay. I had my child. Okay. So when I had my child, after he came to dissolve the engagement, I ended up calling my former boss. I would say my former boss, yeah. I called him and asked him. I told him that I'm going through a lot, so I need to move out from the country now, so he needs to help me. So when he came to me, he told me that, there's been this man that has been worrying them to marry me. Like the man is eager to come to Ghana to marry. And he confessed to me that they've been using my picture for the man. So I said, okay, for all these years you've been using my picture for the man. Right. I said, okay, you let me see the man. So when I saw the man's picture and the age then, it was 70 something. I remember the man was 75 years. Wow. So I asked him to give me 2 weeks to think about it. So I took the decision between 2 weeks.
And what was your decision?
My decision was, wow, this is a survival game. Right. Let me just go with him. Right. Let me just roll on with him. Right. So I ended up deciding that I'm going to meet him. Okay. So we arranged for him to come to Ghana. So when he came to Ghana, he spent a month, and he went back to England. Okay. Because he lived there? Yeah, he lived there. Okay. He's an English. Okay. Yeah. So he went back after 2 years. Without my knowledge, my bosses were still scamming him without my knowledge. So after 2 years, they came to tell me that the man is ready to marry me. So all I did was they took me to a shop. I bought a wedding gown. Everything was set. The man came down to marry me. Wow. Yes. And without the knowledge of my family. Wow. I didn't tell anyone. My bosses paid some few, 4 people. We went to the registrar department. Yeah, we got everything done that day. So after he left, so I applied for my UK visa, settlement visa, and I went to the UK.
With your child? Or
No, I left because I didn't even tell the man I had a child. Okay. I lied.
Right.
So I went to UK without my son. Okay. The reason why I didn't tell my husband, the man, that I had a child was I was scared. Because I didn't know how he's going to take
that, and maybe he'll say.
And my child's dad was in the UK as well, right. And he was okay. So I didn't see the reason of taking him along whilst I'm going to struggle. I don't know
what's going to happen there.
So I ended up leaving him behind.
Okay.
I got to the UK 6 months after. I confessed to my husband in the UK about everything that they did to him, because the guys were calling me to still scam him. And when I got there, I realized that he had a lot of MoneyGrams. He had a bunch of MoneyGram receipts.
So he had been sending them money?
Yes, even to South Africa, to other countries. They will go and withdraw the money. They even used my mom's breast cancer situation to take money. Yes.
To lure money from him. Wow.
Yes, to take money from him. So when I got there, I realized that the man was dead, bankrupt. Like, he had nothing. The only thing he had was the money that he had saved for me as his wife. That was the money that he had on him. So I ended up confessing. I told him that I never knew this before, that I'm sorry. You know, I was struggling and I ended up with the bad guy, and I confessed everything.
How was his reaction?
Yeah, he was surprised and sad. He was like, oh, I should have even told him that I had a child. He would have allowed me to bring because he was meeting my son, and I lied to him that it's my sister's child who died. My sister died. So I'm taking care of it. So he later on noticed that there was a bond. Anytime we go to visit my child, there was a bond. So he was like, oh, no wonder I was so attached to the baby then.
Yes, it started to make sense.
Yes. So he was like, oh God, why did I do that? I said, oh, I'm sorry. So I apologized. I never knew that confession was going to destroy a whole lot of things for me. After 2 years in England, I applied for my indefinite stay. When I applied, I had a reply from the Home Office. They asked me to come back to Ghana or take a lawyer to battle my case. I didn't understand why. So I took a lawyer and I was battling my case. Then later on they wrote to me that my husband has written them a letter earlier on that our marriage wasn't subsisting. So they curtailed my visa.
And he did all this behind your
back?
You had no clue, nothing
about it. So I called him. When I called him, he actually confessed that he did that. And I said, I'm sorry, if I've done something for him to do that, he had to write to them and ask them to
reinstate everything.
Yes, everything, so that I get my papers. And then he said, okay. Then he did. Okay. Afterwards, they wrote another letter to me that my husband has committed bigamy. He's married to another woman. I said, what? My husband, how? I don't understand. So I called him. When I called him, he said, oh, sorry, he met a Nigerian lady. The lady was an asylum seeker, and the lady lied to him that when he married her in England, it's not going to affect my marriage in Ghana, because I got married to him in Ghana. So the lady lied.
Right.
And she also felt, because she was touched by the lady's story, she had to do that for the lady.
Right.
So he ended up marrying the Nigerian lady as well. So it was 2 black women after 1 Englishman.
He was white English, right?
Yes,
okay.
White English, yeah. So the case became tough. So I ended up overstaying in England after 4 years. All this while, I was going to court every Tuesday. Wherever I am in the world, I have to go to make sure. Yes, I'm always reporting every Tuesday at the police station whilst defending my case. So my lawyer, I took a Nigerian lawyer. My lawyer too wasn't helping in any way. I ended up extending my visa. They refused it. So I overstayed in England for 5 years. Yes,
and that
I was battling
that puts penalties on you, isn't it?
Luckily for me, there was no penalty. Yeah, I think there was, but I didn't know, and I didn't know anything by then.
Right.
So I was just living in England, and it got to a point I had to stop work because I was scared they would come to my workplace to arrest.
Yeah.
So I stopped work and I was always home. I was going through a lot of depression by then, and I had money to buy then because I saved a lot of money then.
While you were working.
Yes, and saving, yeah. So I moved out of my husband's house. I was on my own. I was very depressed. I couldn't get any solution from Ghanaians. Whatever you talk to, the person tells you this. I became so confused.
Right.
I was roaming in the whole of England. Ireland, everywhere, every day. I just pick my bag and I'm gone. I ended up doing drugs. I started doing drugs. In fact, then even the sleeping with men was not even for money anymore. It was just for
that comfort.
Yeah,
or that.
I felt like I'm looking for, I don't know. I felt like when I do it, I feel okay.
Right.
I just want to have, in fact, I just want to chill.
Like it takes your problems away, like for the moment.
For the moment,
Right.
you can imagine.
Right.
So I was just doing all sort of shit in England. It even got to the ears of my son's dad, to the extent that he called me to warn me. And I told him that I'm in a deep shit. He needs to help me.
In trouble.
Yeah, I'm in trouble. I don't know whether I'm going back to Ghana or I don't want to end up in Ghana. So I had to survive, you know.
Right.
So I was so depressed in England then, and I was just roaming in town. I had money, so I was just roaming. Though my husband was still backing me with the processing of the court case
and all those things,
everything.
yeah.
He was still with me, but the authorities, because they knew what happened, even him writing the letter to the authorities, I never knew about it till
And you were living with him.
I was
during that
living.
time.
Yes, I was living with him. Yes, I never knew anything till I was arrested. When I got arrested, the day I was arrested at the police station, detained. I was detained. That was when I saw the form, the reasons why they are taking me back to Ghana. When I read the first and I saw the date, 6 months into entering to England, he had written the letter to them. Then it dawned on me that, whoa, my confession has caused a whole lot of harm. So you can imagine 6 months, then later on, 5 years later, I've overstayed, 3 years overstayed in England. It was so, when they detained me then, they even gave me 25 reasons of deportation.
And that.
So when I saw the form, I was just saying, oh, this is the end.
Yeah.
That is it.
Right.
I'm giving up. I can't do anything again. That is it. So they took me to the detention center, and I stayed there for 5 days. They processed everything, and they booked my flights
To come back here,
Yeah,
they do all, yeah.
So luckily for me, they didn't take my bank cards.
Okay.
They only took my driving license. They didn't take my bank cards. So I came back home to Ghana.
Okay. Before we get into you coming back, we're going to take a quick break because I want to know about the transformation.
Yes.
I am sitting with Ellen the Lioness. We are having
The Zionist.
The Zionist. Did I say Lioness before?
Yeah, the Zionist.
The Zionist.
Yes, please.
And her journey is definitely one that will inspire you in one way or another. It will definitely, like I said in the beginning of the episode, transcend into your lives one way or another. This is Sincerely V, real women, real voices.